Hello, welcome to FightCore USA.
What's up, guys? This is the Pressure Fighter, also known as the Human Tsunami. There are several key points to this style that, if understood, can make you a much more effective fighter in your own right. But before we get into those key points, let's have a look at some of the legends who mastered this style. The most recent and probably the most famous practitioner of this style is Khabib, the undefeated Russian who dominated the lightweight division for years and has arguably the greatest record in MMA history with 29 wins and 0 losses. Not only was Khabib feared for his suffocating wrestling and submission skill, but also because of his relentless pressure and ability to completely impose his will on his opponents. It didn't matter how good the opponent was or what their record looked like. When Khabib stepped into the cage, he came to take their will to fight and break them, and that's exactly what he did. Another great example of this fighting style is Henry Although not so big in size, Cejudo was an Olympic gold medalist and a pioneer of the flyweight division. He was able to dominate and destroy opponents bigger than him because of his relentless pressure, impeccable timing, and unbelievable chin. His nickname was Triple C. The reason for the Triple C nickname was because he believed he was the best in 3 different divisions, which he ended up proving by becoming the UFC champion in 3 different weight divisions. Now that you know what kind of fighters we are talking about, let's discuss the 5 key points that made them so dangerous. Point number 1, they never stopped moving forward. Pressure. Fighters always move forward. No matter if they throw a punch and miss, they don't step back. If they shoot for a takedown, and it doesn't work, they don't step back either. What they do instead is go right back after it. And in doing so, they constantly force their opponent to react. It is the never-ending pressure and motion that makes it so hard to deal with a fighter who is trying to pressure you. And there is no greater feeling of being helpless than when you are a highly skilled grappler or striker and you can't even use any of your skills because your opponent won't stop coming forward and applying pressure. Point number 2, constant pressure, forcing the opponent to fight on the back foot. Pressure fighters don't just come forward. They come forward with the intention of imposing their will on their opponents. You might ask, why does it matter if the guy comes forward or not? I can just stand on my back foot, throw some kicks and punches and pick him apart. Well, while that strategy may work against less skilled fighters, it simply won't work against someone who is truly skilled at pressuring their opponents. And that's because the very first thing these fighters want to do is break your rhythm. How could they do this? By forcing you to fight on the back foot. Let me explain. The moment you start throwing punches and kicks from the back foot, you expose your guard. And when you are not used to fighting on the back foot, you tend to leave huge gaps in your guard. These fighters are so well trained that they can exploit these small gaps and in an instant change the entire course of the fight. Point 3, they're willing to take a punch to give a punch. Now this is where the toughness of these kinds of fighters shows. Most fighters would rather play it safe and keep a distance. However, pressure fighters are willing to get hit in order to land their own shots. And this willingness to trade blows with their opponents is what makes them so dangerous. It doesn't matter if they are big or small. It doesn't matter if they are strong or weak. If you can pressure your opponent enough, eventually they will crack, and that one punch that lands for you is usually the end of the fight. Point number 4, their goal is to break the opponent's will and cardio. It's not enough for a pressure fighter to just land a few strikes and knock someone out. They want to completely destroy their opponents. They want to break their will to fight, and they want to do it in such a manner that the opponent never forgets it. Think about it. What is the worst thing that can happen to a striker? To lose a fight because of a Tico do 2 punches, right? But what's worse than getting knocked out is getting worn down, getting tired, having your face beat up until your coach throws in the towel. This is something that psychologically affects a fighter far more than getting knocked out. Even though the goal of every striker should be to knock their opponent out, the truth is most fights aren't won by knockouts. In fact, most fights are won by decision. So, if you're a striker, it's very important to be able to control your gas tank and pace yourself. However, if you're facing a pressure fighter, you won't really need to worry about pacing yourself, because they are the ones who are going to be expending all that energy. Point number 5, their stamina and conditioning are next level. If you think about it, it takes a lot of energy to constantly exert forward pressure. It takes a special kind of athlete to be able to maintain that intensity throughout an entire fight. And that is why pressure fighters have to have some of the best conditioning in all of combat sports. To put it simply, without great conditioning, you can't be a pressure fighter. That's because it takes a lot of energy to constantly move forward and apply pressure. And if you're not conditioned properly, you'll burn out very quickly. That's why pressure fighters have to be in top physical condition at all times. As you can see, the pressure fighter is a truly unique and formidable type of fighter. They're relentless, powerful, and extremely tough. If you ever find yourself facing off against a pressure fighter, you better be prepared for a tough night. Don't be intimidated by their size or strength. Remember, technique and timing are always more important than size and strength. Be sure to stay calm and focused and never give up. With enough heart and determination, you can overcome even the most fearsome pressure fighter. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to check out our other videos and support us by liking and commenting. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Okay guys, thank you for watching my videos.